The NFL Combine is upon us, so it is officially. Did you hear that the Vikings met with player XYZ season? And the Vikings have met reportedly with a handful of prospects. Now, this is a compilation of reports from Darren Doogie Wolfson, Walter Football, other outlets, as well as our guy Vikes Insider. Go give him follow. He's at the Combine, so he's on top of a lot of this news, as well as relaying a lot of news as well. So, as of right now, the Vikings have met with a handful of prospects. Now, I mean, these meetings, there's various levels, right? So first off, if Kwesi's not checking into most of the prospects, he's not doing his job. Now, he could probably pass on looking into Will Anderson and Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, probably, but that's perfectly fine. But again, if he's not looking under every single stone, he's not really doing his job. And a lot of these interviews, sometimes they're bluffs. Sometimes teams legitimately want the word to get out. It's like, hey, this team met with XYZ. That's why they will actually leak it to some insiders or some reporters. It's like, oh, hey, team met with blah, 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 where they have no interest altogether. Or sometimes they'll meet with a prospect to talk about their teammates, who they are actually interested in, and get the lowdown from one of their teammates. So there's a lot of various reasons, but this is who the Vikings have met with reportedly so far. 3 quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, so that's the one that makes the most headlines. Projected first-round pick. He might go number 1 overall. Like, the ceiling is up here. I understand he does have accuracy issues. I understand that this, that, or the other thing, but redshirt sophomore probably could have used a year of another year in college, but Richardson's ceiling is there, man. And it's funny that he calls himself Cam Jackson, because he's got the size of Cam Newton. He's got the speed of Lamar Jackson. He's got a big-time arm. And mechanics-wise, if a coaching staff can break him down and rebuild him and really hone in on what he does well, Richardson could be that next dynamic weapon. Like, he could be legitimately the best quarterback in this draft, and I think a lot of CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. And they also met with Will Levis, the other lotto ticket at quarterback, where Levis has a big time arm. He's the only major quarterback who's going to throw at the combine, as well as does have some movement skills. And Josh Allen has really paved the way for some of these guys, right? So Levis probably going to be in the top 10. Now, also, I think Richardson's going to be in the top 10 as well. Maybe might go number 1. And the Vikings sitting at 23, they don't have the draft capital. Maybe they don't have the motivation to move up, but like I said, if Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell aren't checking these boxes, they're not doing their jobs. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a little bit more realistic, coming out of UCLA. They met with him reportedly, and he's seen as a day 3 selection, as a developmental guy. Now, he is a Chip Kelly quarterback, so coming from a unique college offense, does need a lot of work, but he does have some athleticism. Doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, but serviceable. But the problem is, a lot of it is coming from the RPO offenses, that it's a lot of short throws, it's a lot of quick throws, it's a lot of wide open throws. So DTR is someone who's going to have to sit, and maybe it would be a practice squad candidate for a year or two, and then see what happens there. And then in the trenches, our guy John Michael Schmitz, the top interior offensive lineman in the class, the all-world center from the Gophers, got size, got power, got movement skills. I would love and adore him. I wouldn't mind if the Vikings just stick and pick and took him at 23 and finally fix the pivot position for the Vikings. Defensive side of the ball, a guy who had himself a really nice combine evening yesterday was Isaiah Foskey, coming out of Notre Dame. Now, he's seen as like a day 2 pick. Maybe he sneaks into the first round conversation. Could certainly see that. Ran a 4.58 40, 10-second split was sort of whatever, but 13.5 sacks last year. Can't sneeze at that. And funny, his comps are to Yannick the freaking Ngakoue, former Vikings legend, which is kind of funny, man. Then also they met with nose tackle Gervin Dexter, coming out of Florida, second Florida product. Now, he's seen as a day 3 pick. Nose tackle does need a lot of work, but teams aren't going to be able to ignore his size. 6'6", 310, will not be pushed around. But a lot of fundamentals, a lot of quickness off the snap, a lot of hand placement stuff, a lot of technical issues. But it is a raw ball of clay that I'm sure a lot of coaches would love to get their hands on. And then 4 cornerbacks. Of course, the Vikings need some help in the defensive backfield. So Julius Brents out of Kansas State, day 2 selection type guy. He's a guy that I fell in love with at the Senior Bowl. He's an absolute condor, massive wingspan. He's going to have versatility. Could play outside corner, could play in the slot, could play safety. Last year, 4 interceptions, 4 passes broken up. It does have a really nice nose for the football, so keep an eye on him. Next up, Keely Ringo out of Georgia. Now, Keely's evaluation is all over the place. Like, some people see him as a top 3 corner. I don't personally. Some people see him as a 3rd round pick, which I also don't see it. But he's got size, super athletic, and you're betting on traits. And he does need a lot of technical work. He had 9 penalties in 2022. You could say that his 2021 season was better than last year. But, I mean, he is a guy that you're betting on the upside, and hopefully he can limit what his negatives and really accentuate his positives at the next level. And then next up, Eli Ricks, cornerback out of Alabama, seen as a day 2 pick. So he was a guy where Alabama constantly gets 4 and 5 star recruits in that defensive backfield, and Ricks was sort of a guy who got lost in the shuffle, but certainly has NFL talent. He's got length. He's more of a, I mean, he could kick inside as like a hybrid big nickel type corner where he matches up with larger, slower receivers or tight ends. 5 interceptions over his career, 2 pick sixes, so he does have a nice nose for the ball. But like I said, sort of got lost in the shuffle there in Alabama. But he's the type of player who is going to be a lot better pro player than he was in college in all likelihood. And then lastly, Cam Smith out of South Carolina. So Cam Smith is a guy who's been constantly mocked to the Vikings, seen as a first-round pick, lengthy, tough, ball hawk, maybe a little bit too aggressive at times. 10 penalties in 2022, does get a little bit grabby. And it's sort of the same thing with Ringo and Cam Smith, where I would prefer a corner who's a little bit too aggressive, because you can rein that in with better technical skills and better footwork, so that they don't feel like they have the need to do that. Versus if you have too passive of a cornerback who you have to teach to be a little bit more aggressive and handsy and whatnot. So, I mean, Cam Smith, Keely Ringo, obviously they have a lot to work on. But, the Vikings do need some help in the cornerback room, and this is a very good cornerback class, so if they go that direction, it does make a ton of sense. But that's it. That's running through our Vikings have met with NFL Prospect Tracker. Let us know your thoughts or our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skull Production Value.